What's going on, guys? I'm Steven Richard with Freelance Film School, and in today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to create titles within Adobe Premiere Pro. Now, of course, in any kind of editing or any kind of creative work, you can take it as far as you want it. You can be as creative as you want, you can get as complex as you want. But for today's video's purpose, I'm gonna be showing you guys the basics on how to use the software, use the tools, kind of how to navigate through everything. So I'm giving you guys the information so you can go ahead and be as creative and complex as you want. But of course, if you guys have any specific questions on any specific title effects you want to learn how to do, put that in the comment section below, and I would love to make a video in the near future showing you guys how to do just that. Also, if you guys learn anything from this video, I'd appreciate it if you give it a thumbs up and click the subscribe button so you don't miss any editing or filmmaking tutorials in the future. So let's get right into it, guys. So of course, I have my video clip in the timeline. And I have my folders right here. Normally, I wouldn't have just one clip in the whole project. It's a lot. Anyone who does any editing knows it's a lot more complex than that. So something I love to preach to video editors is to stay organized, because it will save you a lot of time, a lot of frustration, and a lot of headaches. So as you can see, I already made a folder for my sequence. I made a folder for my video. And now I'm making titles, so of course I'm gonna make a folder for my titles. So how do I do that? Right here's your little folder button. It's a little new bin. Click that, and look at that. That pops up. Name it titles. So I have sequences, videos, and titles. So if I double click that, it's gonna open up. So now, as long as I keep that open, any titles I make are gonna fall within the titles folder. So how do you make a title, you might ask? You might be on this video for that exact reason. I'm gonna show you that right now. So in order to get to the title software, whatever you want to call it, whatever Adobe did, so you don't have to outsource to Photoshop or After Effects. Thank you, Adobe, for making our lives very simple. You go to File, New, and then Legacy Title right there. So once you do that, again, that's File, New, Legacy Title. Put that in your head. File, New, Legacy Title. So once you do that, this will pop up, and this is basically what do you want to name your title file name. This has nothing to do with what you're going to see on the screen. This is just the name of the file. So for example, if you're doing a bunch of interviews and you're making a bunch of lower thirds for these interviews, you might want to name these files the name of the person you're interviewing. So say you're interviewing a guy named John, name this file John so you can find it. So we're doing like a little opening title, so I'm just going to do open. So once you do that, it's going to open up the title software. If this is your first time, it might not make it full screen. So go ahead and stretch your edges out so it's full screen so you can see everything you need to see. Now, of course, in the dead center of the screen, you're going to see the video that you're working on. Now, if you're making a title that's specific to that video clip, you want to make sure that you scrub along in your timeline and have it set up so you see exactly the clip that you're going to be putting the title on. So what do I mean by that? So let me X out real quick. So wherever I scrub along right here is what I'm going to see in the title maker. So once you have that selected, we're going to open our file back up. All right, so now we're back in the title software, and we have it exactly where we want to go. So on the top left, these are your two tools that you're going to use for 99.9% of the time, especially when you're starting out. Your text tool and then your selecting tool, right? So obviously, to make some text, you have to highlight your text tool, right? So there's two different ways you can go upon it. You can make a little text box, which I know some people like to do. Personally, that's not really my style, so we're going to go ahead and get the selector tool. Click that, and then just delete it. The way I like to do is I like to just click, and then I like to type. So let's say we're making like an opening title. So we're going to call this City Nights. And then once you're done typing, you can just go back to the selector tool. And now that you have your selector tool, you can kind of drag and move it wherever you want it to go. So say I want to go in the bottom right, I can just drag and move it to the bottom right. Now, something that is very helpful for making very precise movements is the X position and the Y position. Now, if you paid attention in high school math, you know that X position is left and right, and then the Y position is up and down. So this is very helpful when you try to make those very specific, slight adjustments that wouldn't really work so accurately if you're trying to just drag it around with your mouse, because it can get a little clunky. So the X and Y position, also with the X and Y position, if you just click that number, you can type in the number. So let's say 1700, and then it moves it to wherever 1700 is on the screen. So if that can come in the near future. You might not be caring about that right now, but that can help you out in the future. So just know that you can do that. Same thing with like your font. You can just click that instead of just using the wheel. If you already know exactly what your font size is, just click it and then type in your number 100. whatever, you know, so that's helpful. So let's say I'm doing like an opening title, right? And I want that to be in the dead center, smack center of the screen. If you look in the left side over here where it says center, there's two different buttons. So one of them is going to go horizontally. So now my words are exactly centered horizontally in the screen. Now, if you click the other one on the left, that's vertically. So now it's vertically and horizontally centered in the screen. So that is the dead center for agent, whatever font this is, Agency FB, regular at 100% font size. That is the dead center. So of course, if you change your font size, that's no longer centered. So you have to redo it. So just click both, and now it's centered again. There we go. It took a little second there. I don't know why. Now, speaking of fonts and font size, let me center it out. Of course, you know, this font might not be the font I want to use. So how do I find different fonts? Well, there's two different places you can go to look for that. It's both the same thing. You can go right here in the top left, or you can go right over here to font family. Same exact thing. For some reason, I find myself going to the top left. You click this little arrow, it brings down. Adobe is kind enough to give us all sorts of free fonts to use for us creators. So you can scroll along and find what font you want to use. If say you don't know exactly what font you want yet, something that I actually find myself doing a lot is you just click right here, and now it's highlighted, and now you can use the up and down arrows on your keyboard to kind of scroll through, if you have enough time, to scroll through and see what fits, see what looks right, see which one you like the most. All right, so I found my font I wanted. I picked Onyx. I like the name. I think it looks kind of cool, all nice and condensed. So pretty much like 70% of the time, more than 90% of the time, when I'm making titles or just putting any kind of words on the screen, I'm going to have a white font. But let's say you want to change that to a different color. You can come right over here to this little box right here. And then this is your little color palette wheel. I don't know what you want to call it. But it has every single color available in Adobe. And this is actually how Adobe proved that the dress was blue and black, not white and gold. All right, I'm a blue and blacker, and I trust Adobe. I don't know how anyone saw white and gold in that dress. All right, but let's cancel out. Let's keep it white. Also, a cool little tool you can use is right next to that little box. This little what we call the eyedropper. So basically, once you have it selected, once you click on the eyedropper, anywhere you go on the screen, and not only just the video, anywhere on your computer screen that you hover over, it will change the color of your words to that exact color. Anywhere. It doesn't have to be just the video. It's kind of cool, right? Even down here. So let's say you wanted to play off of, I don't know, you can make it black. Let's say you want to play off of like the color of the streets. Say that's the color you want, right here, right? Click, and now that's the color of your font. Pretty cool. I find myself using that a lot when I'm doing like graphic design, like on Photoshop and stuff, but it's still very cool if you want to play off the color of your video. So like I said, most of the time I'm keeping the font just plain white. But a very common problem you can run into when having a white font is it might blend into the video. Now, what do I mean by that? So let's say you have like a bright shot going on, or let's say, actually, perfect example. Say this, whatever this little bright, I don't know if that's like a construction site or if that's like I don't know, it looks like it could be a field that's lit up. I don't know what it is, but let's say that was more in the center of the screen. So just for our purposes, let's move our little words over. As you can see, the white font is blending into that, and that doesn't look good. That looks very lousy. On a paid commercial video, you wouldn't have it looking like that, right? But let's say you want to keep that font and you want it to be white. You don't want to have a purple font or something in this specific selection. That's fine. There's ways around it. So let's go back to our little text tool. Let's highlight the words. And there's two common things you can do. Sometimes you can do both at the same time. Let's scroll down over here on the right to your little properties. And as you can see, we have a thing called shadow, and we have a thing called, strokes. Now, if you click shadow, it does what you think it would do. It gives your words a shadow. Now, for some reason, because a shadow is supposed to be more elegant and not really as popping as a stroke might be, it starts it off at a 50% opacity, as you can see right here. So like that little arrow shows the little properties of your shadow, right? It starts off at 50% opacity, but let's up it to 100 because we definitely need as much as we can get. So we put up to 100, and as you can see already, let's go on and off a couple times. The difference that just the shadow alone has made, and it really hasn't changed too much with the font. Still looks pretty original, right? Like pretty original to what it looked like before. So let's keep that on. Another thing we can do, actually, let's take it off for a second so I can show you what the strokes look like without the shadow. So now looking at the strokes, we're going to go to the outer stroke. An inner stroke so a stroke is pretty much like a bezel outside. It's an outline of the letters, right? So if you do on the inside, it's gonna keep on the inside of the letters. That's not gonna necessarily help us too much with this. And I'm just more of an outer stroke guy. I don't know. We're all creative, we're all artistic in our own ways. You can kind of test it out, whatever you like more. I like outer strokes more. So we're gonna click add for outer strokes. And as you can see, it's more of a hard outline, right? Now, some fonts, that can look a little bit cheesy. It really doesn't look good with some fonts, specifically like bubbly fonts. This one doesn't look too bad, but I would definitely add the shadow along with it so it's not as hard lined. It doesn't look like it's just like an outlined letter. Because just that alone, even with this font, it looks pretty cheesy. So we're going to go ahead and keep the shadow. But actually, let me take off the shadow for a second just so I can show you that, of course, everything you do with these properties has its own properties. So this outer stroke has, you know, there's types, there's size, there's fill type. So let's adjust the size a little bit. You can have as thick as you want or as thin as you want. Let's bring ours to like 15, and then let's add the shadow. So as you can see right there, look how much more these words are popping out of the background video than when, let me show you, than when we had nothing. Like, look, you literally can't even see the last 4 letters in the word nights. But now you can, and it still looks very nice. It doesn't look clunky in my opinion. It still looks like very nice font. It looks very professional. But obviously right now it looks a little weird because it's off-center, but I just had to move it over to show you guys that if you want to keep a white font and this kind of like a white background or a bright background, you don't have to change the color of your font. There's a million different things you can do to make your words pop out. Just strokes and shadows are the 2 most popular. So let's say this is how we want it. Well, it's centered out. Let's say we're happy with how this looks. A nice minimal looking opening title, City Nights. There's no Command S. There's no file save in this little software. It took me a second to get used to this, but once you're done, say this is what you want, just X out. No saving, nothing. As you can see, it automatically saved to our file that's called open. You can see I updated right there. So let's back out real quick. Within titles, we have a title file called open. So we know that's the open title. So we can drag and drop this onto our clip. And a little hack, if you guys don't know, the little squiggly button under the escape key on your keyboard, whatever little part of Adobe that you're hovering over, so let's say you're hovering over that or this, if you press it, it makes it full screen. So when you're trying to view your video and you don't want to just view it on this little, I don't know, this little screen in the top right, just hover over and press the squiggly button and press play. And look at that. There we go. Like I said, very basic today. I didn't want to make anything too fancy. I want to keep this video quick. I know how long tutorials can be annoying and you want to watch the whole thing. You want to just get right into action. But again, I hope you guys learned something. If you did, make sure you give the video a thumbs up. And if you don't want to miss any future editing or filmmaking tutorials in the future, then make sure you click that subscribe button. And yeah, again, I hope you guys learned something, and I hope you make some awesome titles. And if you have any suggestions for title effects or any tutorials in the future, make sure you put them down in the comment section below.